shoot, you can see my fuzzy shoe. You couldn't see it in the last thing. Hey guys, what's up? We are live, and I'm getting it all situated today. Wait, babe, is it maybe it's the wrong camera? Hold on. Can you? Oh, what did I do? See, look, oh no, it's not. It's that one. Okay, all right. Hey, sorry. I'm gonna try not to talk too much about everything administrative right now. Whitaker is into the live streams lately. Okay, we're good.
We're good.
Thanks. We got a new webcam.
You need some headphones?
This is the husband. If you don't know him, I don't know why you wouldn't. Some headphones. He's got some podcasts in his ears. So first real live chat with me. That's awesome. Okay, this is on my channel. Yes. Okay, just making sure I'm doing everything right. And okay, so don't listen, because then I won't be myself. Okay, let me just tell y'all before we get started. So if you don't know, I did just start a new podcast last week, which is super exciting. I'm really, really, really excited about it. And y'all have been so amazingly supportive. But a lot of people who watch the live streams have said, or like miss the live streams, want to watch the replay, but it's kind of long to just like open up on YouTube and you don't have time to sit down and watch it, yada, yada. You just want to listen because basically, I can... Yeah, sorry. See, comments. I can't leave a comment, so I get distracted. You just want to listen, but you want to be able to listen like while you're driving or put your phone in your pocket or whatever. So I will be uploading the live stream like audio to the podcast. However, I'm going ahead and getting all this like administrative YouTube live stream stuff out of the way first before I start what's actually going to be on the podcast. But because I want the audio to be good and everything, I have a special microphone right here so everyone can hear me, and it's in a shoe. Shout out to my niece Emily for the hand-me-down shoe that we just got for Gaines. And I had this mic and I was like, well, I don't want to sit here and hold it, and I don't have a mic stand. Y'all see how professional I am at this job that I do. So I was like, oh, that'd be the perfect thing to put it in. So I hope it's not impeding the sound or whatever. So y'all let me know if you can't hear. Hopefully you can hear. But okay, everybody's getting here. Y'all let me know if you can't hear. The comments are going to be a little bit delayed. I also have a different webcam now that Cullen put up for our live stream yesterday. And hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit better and the visuals be a little bit better. But all right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on from this. Oh, I did want to tell y'all before we get started, I am probably going to not be trying to look at comments too much because I get totally off topic and then it's not as easy for y'all to listen to because I am all over the place. But if there are some that I see that are like relevant or whatever, then I will talk about them as they go. And then yesterday we had, when Cullen and I did a live stream on our Cullen and Katie channel, we had a lot of super chats popping up, and that was wonderful. And we were like super duper appreciative for that. And we thank you guys so much for that. But people were saying it was like super distracting because we get off topic. So if I see any of those pop up today, then I will read those all at the end once we get past like all the stuff that I'm actually talking about. So I believe that's it. Some people do super chats like just to be supportive and because y'all are wonderful and amazing and we totally appreciate that. If that's something that you want to do, but you don't necessarily like want to do a super chat or whatever, there is, if you go to the podcast, there's like a support this podcast button you can click. There's all different kinds of options like that. Buy a shirt. Look, trust yourself. Okay, anyways, but let's get right to the topic. So we're going to get started talking about what we came on here to talk about today. So I posted a video last night on my Instagram story. If you guys saw it, it was about saying no without feeling guilty, which is something that I have learned so much over the last year, and something that I didn't even know was like okay to do until recently, which is just crazy looking back on it. I'm 36 years old and just learning about saying no. A lot of y'all seem like you're struggling with some of this too. And I've seen a lot of people say like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're talking about this. This is so helpful. I need to work on this myself. And so I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what I've learned as I am doing lately with all of these different topics. I want to talk about what I've learned over the past year about that, how I've kind of overcome my fear of saying no, how I've realized that it's not just okay to say no, but it's important to for your own health, for your own mental health, your own sanity, your own whatever reason that it may be, that you need to set some boundaries and say no. It's been hard. And I think part of the process over the year has kind of been figuring out not just like how to do it, but why. Hello, kitty cat. Why I have trouble with it. Like, why can't I say no? Why do I feel like I can't? We also have, if you're listening on the podcast, this is live video on YouTube, and we have Cullen's sister, Brittany's dog. He's hanging out with us too, and you can see him in the video. But anyways, so the why of like, why am I like this? Why? That's what's helped me kind of figure out how to change it, is why do I have trouble saying no? And what is it that is holding me back from that? So there were lots of great comments and things that you guys said on my post about like, your marriage, your relationship with family members, your relationship with friends, and not being able to say no. So this whole not saying no thing goes further than just like saying no to like a social event. Like, oh, I can't come to that because I have something to do. It goes beyond that. That was kind of where it started for me, is like, how do I say no if I don't want to do something? Or I would find myself, we talked about this some in last week's live stream or last week's podcast, about like the codependent part of it, of feeling like I needed to do more for other people than I actually should be doing. And sometimes saying no is not just in response to somebody asking you to do something, but doing something that you feel like you should, even though you shouldn't, I guess. Like nobody asked you to, but you just feel like you should do something in a certain way or for somebody or whatever else. This came into play a good bit in our marriage and in our relationship as we were struggling with some things last year, and with some of the addiction stuff, with like issues that Cullen was having that would kind of go over into other social relationships that we had with friends or family or whatever. And I would find myself feeling like, even if he didn't ask me to, that I needed to make an excuse for him. Like if he didn't come to something that he was supposed to come to, coming up with some excuse. And if y'all know me, you know that I'm like not a person who likes to be dishonest or likes to lie or likes to make things up. It's just not me. It's not how I am. So booger is all in this video. So that was hard because I just kind of felt like I had to, even though he didn't necessarily ask me to. I guess it kind of goes back to what I talked about last week about how I felt like, if he was doing something wrong, then that was on me. Then that was my responsibility. It was my fault. I was the one that needed to be in charge of that. And that's just not how it is. So, okay, let me just get to what I was going to talk about with this is, okay, so here's one of the things that I learned, is how much me not saying no and being able to stand up for myself or do what I need to do, kind of like set some boundaries for myself, how that was affecting my relationships with other people. So when I would find myself like kind of caving in or doing something that I didn't want to do, or saying yes to, whether it be a social obligation or whether it's just, being the one to, I think I mentioned this last week, like be the one to do the dishes every time, be the one to change a diaper every time it needed changing, or whatever the situation was, then it builds up some like bitterness and resentment towards the other person that you are like having the issue with, or towards the situation. Maybe it's that like a very common situation that I feel like I still kind of have trouble with is if there's somebody that is, or like something that is a problem for you. Say, for example, like your neighbor across the street is always parking right in front of your mailbox, or, in front of your driveway or something like that. And it's like, you don't want to say anything because you're not like, you don't want to make them uncomfortable, but then you're in turn making yourself uncomfortable when maybe if you said something, they'd just be like, oh, it's fine, I'll move it. Hang on. Okay, sorry. Then it's just one of those things that it's like, you get bitter and you get resentful, and then things get really frustrating. And then you've got this bad relationship with somebody that doesn't even know that they're doing something that's making you upset. So, there would be an easy way to just be able to step out there and do that. But if it's something like the example that I gave in my Instagram post last night about somebody that had commented on a video and said, like, her mother-in-law used to have a key to their house and would just come over all the time and walk in and, not ask or not call or whatever. And that's because that's just maybe how things were in their family. Her husband's family was just like that. And maybe that's just how it was. And that wasn't weird to them, but to her, that was just weird and she didn't like it. And she just kind of let it go for a while and didn't say anything because she didn't want to be disrespectful and she didn't want to hurt his feelings or her feelings. And, it wasn't anything against her as a person. It wasn't like, hey, I don't like you and I don't want you in my house. It was, that's just not me. I just don't want you. Like, I want to have my own privacy. And that's the kind of thing that's super duper hard. Like, I have a really hard time with that kind of confrontation. Even if it's like the person, like, I'll go get my car washed and they'll be, I'll get in the car and they'll be like, oh, how does everything look? And they'll stand there and they'll want to know, like, is there anything we missed? And I'll see something like, oh, they totally forgot to wipe out this area. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. When they're asking me, what do I think about it? How does it look? And I just choose not to say it. But that's something that I'm working on. Like, it's a lot of times people, it's not like you're being rude. You should be able to express something that is bothering you, especially if it's like a service you're paying for or something like that. One thing that I had said in my video as well is talking about if somebody can't respect your boundaries. So say this girl had this conversation with her mother-in-law and had said, hey, you know what? I love you and you're great, but I don't want you just using your key and coming in our house all the time because that's just whatever, however she has the conversation. And her mother-in-law just decides to say, well, that's crazy. I should just be able to do that, or just doesn't acknowledge it or whatever, doesn't respect her boundary. Then that's a really hard situation. And I had said in my video, if somebody doesn't respect your boundaries, I don't know what to tell you. Just don't be friends with those people. And I had cut out the part. So the Instagram clip was a shorter clip from a longer video. And I had cut out the part where I was like, no, not really. I'm just kidding. Don't just not be friends with them. But the more that I've learned and the more that I've kind of like worked through all of this myself, the more I'm like, it's okay. Like, why would you keep somebody in your life if they're not respecting something that's important to you, that you're not doing in a negative or mean or rude way to somebody, but especially a friend, or it's just, that's not a friend, like that's not somebody that you need in your life. That's not supportive of the things that you need to make sure that, that you're healthy. So in that case, like, it's not the mother-in-law's place to say whether or not it's okay for her to come into their house. Like, that's not her place. She doesn't live there. And I don't know. It's like, it's harder to explain than it is in my head because, hey, thank you. Because I don't know. It's just hard because that's easier said than done. And I don't know. I've been like hearing a lot about this and reading a lot about this, and it's something that I'm learning. And so I'm hoping that in some way, this convoluted way of me explaining things and talking about something that's not making any sense is helping you guys too. But just knowing that it's okay to like stand up for yourself in a way of, lessening your communication with somebody who doesn't respect your boundaries, or, choosing not to hang out with them, or I don't know what to do if it's your mother-in-law that's got a key to your house and just keeps coming in, other than like take the key from her and don't let her come in. And that's a harder situation when it's your family. But I know a lot of people who commented about dealing with this with friends, that, their friends weren't respectful of their boundaries. They weren't respectful of the things that they felt, or their, whether it be their like moral stand on things, or they're asking them to do something they don't feel comfortable with, or they're just using different like manipulative guilt tripping strategies to get people to do stuff for them, like, oh yeah, I forgot, or somebody at work, like, dang it, I had this and this and this come up and I don't know what I'm going to do because I didn't get this project done. And could you do it for me? I feel like that kind of thing happens all the time. And being the type of person that I am, I tend to be overly empathetic. Like I overly rationalize for other people. And I've learned over the past year, and Cullen's even learned to be like, okay, well, first of all, you don't know they're feeling that way. And second of all, it's not your place to take on that responsibility of somebody else's. There's a sign that I've seen on like people's desks, like at the front desk of places that says like poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. So there definitely are in life true situations where somebody's going to need help. Somebody's going to have like an emergency. For example, the night when Cullen got a staph infection in his face that came out of the blue and we like needed to rush to the hospital. Totally could not have anticipated that. And luckily my sister was amazing enough to take our kids and I took them over there and they were able to spend the night. So that's an example of something that is going to, just like you can't help. There's going to be emergencies. But I'm talking about the situations of the person who always forgets to bring their wallet, or, they never get their projects done in time and you always end up picking up the slack. Or I guess I'm thinking too, like as far as kids go, when I was little, I always forgot my books for my homework, like always. And we would always have to turn back around and go get my books, or sometimes we wouldn't. I honestly don't even remember how that played out. So I don't remember. I remember going back a lot of times. I don't remember if there was ever a time when my parents were like, that's too bad you forgot them. I feel like it probably did get to that point because eventually I think I did start remembering my books. But I feel like what happens when you're a super empathetic person and you start putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and you're like, oh, well, I know how that feels. Like, dang it, that sucks. Like you didn't mean to forget your books. You didn't mean to wait till the last minute to finish your project. And so you need somebody to help you with wrapping it up. You didn't mean to do that. And like, I want to help you out. And I know how it feels to be in that situation. Well, that's fine. The first time, maybe the first couple of times, some people would probably say, no, that's still not your responsibility. And, that's up to you to make that decision. But for me, it's really hard to do that right off the bat, to just say like, nope, that's your fault. That's your problem. And I don't think that I would do that. But if it's something that keeps happening, you feel like you're being kind by helping, but what you're really doing is you're hurting the other person more. They think you're helping them. They think that it's like nice that you feel like you're helping. You feel like they need you. You're not helping. Like it's making it worse because they're not learning the responsibility. For example, our kids, I've mentioned this before about being late to school, how we always used to be late to school. So at their old preschool, we would have to like physically walk them in, and that's just how it went. And so if we got there late, it was like, okay, well, I got to walk them in whether I'm late or whether I'm on time. And either I would walk them to the room that they're supposed to be in, or I'd walk them to like the playground or wherever they were. But the school that they're at now, there's carpool. So they're able to, like, the people get them out of the car, which saves a ton of time. When you're taking two toddlers that want to carry everything, they're not toddlers anymore, whatever. They're 3 and almost 5. But when they were at their old school, they were like 1 and 3. But you're saving a lot of time, and maybe you don't even have to have your shoes on yet or your clothes. You can still be wearing your pajamas if somebody else is getting them out of the car. And it's just, you're able to get back to work, get back to whatever you need to do. So at the old school, there was really no consequence, I guess, for it. But the first time at their new school that I got there, like literally 2 minutes after carpool ended, and like carpool was shut down and I had to walk them in. And I was like, oh man, this sucks. So then the first time I was like, that's just crazy. It's only 2 minutes after the time, blah, blah, blah. But you got to have boundaries. Like they had to have boundaries, and, they could feel bad that like, oh, bless her heart, she's going to have to bring them in. And there's 2 kids and they got all their bags and all their stuff and they're like tripping over their shoelaces. And but I'm sorry, like that's the policy. And if they did that for everybody, then everybody would still be late. So you better bet you I started getting my kids to school on time, because I knew that it was better off for everybody. It wasn't as, difficult to get them in the door. It didn't take as long. I was able to get back on the road and get to work sooner and everything else. So, it was helpful to me. It was helpful that there was, and it wasn't in a mean way. Nobody was like rude. Even if I did have to walk them in, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, you're terrible because your kids are late. I can't believe they're late. There was nothing harsh about it. It was just kind of like, this is the line. Like, this is where we draw the line, and you can choose to be on time or you can choose to be late, and you walk them in. So I think that's kind of a good picture of boundaries and saying no, or being able to kind of be in control of what works best for you. That it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to be a punishment. Boundaries are protecting something that's important to you. And I've said that several times, and it was a good reminder for me to go back and watch my old video where I started saying that, because I feel like it's just a better way to explain it. If you're in the mother-in-law situation, if she was protecting her privacy, she was protecting her sanity. I'm not somebody that likes to just have like somebody show up at my house unexpectedly or not know that something's about to happen. I'm a planner. I like to know what's going to happen. I, being the type of person that I am, usually have the next, 5 things in my head that I need to do this and this and this. And I'm usually probably still running late doing all of them. So things are a little tight, but a lot of times it's just, you have to be respectful of other people's, I guess that wouldn't be like morals or beliefs. What's the word I'm looking for? Like personal preferences, on how they want to live their lives. So I think, that just shows that I'm still able to have like a perfectly fine relationship with everybody. If I come in late, nobody has to feel bad about it that I have to walk in other than me. Like, that puts me in responsibility for getting my kids there on time. It's not their responsibility that I had to walk them in. It's not their fault. It's my fault, my responsibility. So, yeah, that was kind of a long, long explanation of that. One thing that I've found recently of when I know that I'm not doing a good job, the more I've learned, when I know that I'm not doing a good job of setting boundaries, is when I start to feel the resentment, the bitterness, but I just have, I will get so frustrated, and I will hear coming out of my mouth, why does this keep happening? Oh my gosh, seriously, why do you keep doing this to me? Nobody's doing anything to you. If it's something that's what you're saying, you're allowing that thing to happen. And this can be from something, super huge to your husband keeps lying to you, or your mother-in-law keeps coming into your house, or it can be something super small as actually the reason that our son Brooks ended up giving up his passy, because every night he would forget it, because it was just something that he had in bed. And some mornings he would bring it down with him, and then, he'd be done with it. And so he'd leave it downstairs. And so when we would go up to bed at night, we would get everything situated, and we're laying down, and he's like, oh, where's my passy? And I would be like, oh my gosh, why does this happen every night? And then I'd have to go back downstairs, and then I'd get frustrated. And then I finally was like, you know what? I'm the one enabling this behavior. I'm the one allowing him to continue. And you can kind of translate this metaphor to whatever situation you're in, whether, I know a lot of people have situations with a spouse or a family member or whoever with addiction problems. And you can kind of translate to that, that when you're covering for somebody, when you're enabling it in any way, then that it's on you, that it's continuing. So I finally was just like, you know what, if he wants it, then he's going to need to be the one responsible for it. So I went down and got it the final night, and I was like, all right, buddy, here's the deal. I went and got this for you, but this is your responsibility. It's not my passy. I don't need it. If you want it at night, you need to remember to be the one to bring it up. You got to be the one to find it, because we would look for it, we couldn't find it, and he'd put it in a drawer somewhere. So, the next night we got up there, and he was like, oh, where's my passy? And it wasn't up there. And I told him he had to go look for it. And he went and looked, and he looked around the house, he even went downstairs, and he couldn't find it. And he came back up, and he was like, I can't find it. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And oh my gosh, it was so hard. I was like, dang it, I know exactly where one is. I know where I can go find one right now and cure his little sad heart from being sad. But I said, oh, I'm sorry, buddy, I guess we'll have to look in the morning. He was like, okay. And then he went to sleep without it. And I was like, what just happened? And I came downstairs and I told Cullen, I was like, are you kidding me? This is happening right now. Like, is he going to go to sleep? And he ended up falling asleep and it was fine. And he hasn't had it since. He did ask for it a few times after that, but it just shows like how much enabling something by feeling guilty because you're getting, you're not setting a boundary. You're not saying like, this isn't my responsibility, is detrimental to the other person, not just to you too. So like I said, just the gut check thing. If you feel yourself, like I've found so much lately to trust that feeling that I get, whether it's just a feeling of like, there's something about this isn't right. Like, am I a bad person for like not wanting, I keep going back to this mother-in-law comment just because it's a good example of what somebody commented. If you're just joining us, I'm not talking about my mother-in-law. I'm talking about somebody who left a comment talking about how their mother-in-law had a key to their house and would just come in whenever she wanted to, and it became a problem. But when I find myself starting to like question myself, like I feel a certain way, I'm getting frustrated. And then I start going like, well, am I like a bad person because I don't like this? Like maybe I don't need to be, must be rude and I should be understanding. And then start talking yourself out of it. And that's where trusting yourself comes into play. It's your feelings, it's your house, it's your whatever. Like you have to trust yourself that just because somebody else is making you feel guilty that they can't invade your space, like, sorry. I mean, that's who I am. So when you start feeling even not just, there's things that are obvious that you're just like, oh my God, this is making me nuts. Why does this keep happening? But then there's things that are like those little, like in the back of your head, you keep being like, this just isn't right. Like there's something not right about this. I also talked some in my video about over-explaining your no and how no is a complete sentence. You should be able to say, no, I don't want to do that. No, that's not okay. No, you're not going to bring drugs in the house. No, you're not going to come in my house with a key when you don't live here. Regardless of what it is. No, I don't want to go to dinner tonight or whatever somebody asks you to do. No, I can't go to that party or whatever else. And people should be respectful of that. I do think that there are times that it is, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but I do feel like there are times that it's polite to not give an excuse necessarily, but if it's something that you genuinely want to do and you're like, hey, I would love to do this, but, and then, whatever the reason is, I think the problem comes when you say your but, and your but isn't good enough for the other person. And that's when you kind of have to think about that relationship. It's not so much about that you shouldn't have expressed your feelings as much as, whoa, if this person isn't respecting this when I'm genuinely saying how I feel about it, then let's think about this relationship and how important it is to me. And is it beneficial for my mental health or for whatever to stay in this relationship? Because sometimes the reason may be I would love to go to that party or I would love to whatever the thing is, but I have had such a busy week and I'm really tired and I really want to sit on the couch and like watch some TV, or I really want to go to bed early or whatever else. Whatever your reason is, it doesn't matter. Like if you say no, you should feel confident in that. And I think part of this whole thing for me, I've been thinking about kind of like, why is this so hard for me? How have I overcome it? And what's allowed me to be able to overcome it? And part of it for me is that I didn't trust myself. When I would say no, and then somebody would start saying, well, but you can sleep in tomorrow, or, tomorrow night you can like lay on the couch. And maybe if, then I would start questioning myself because I didn't trust myself to make a good decision. Like I didn't feel like I was, losing words, not capable of, I didn't feel like I was like good enough to make a decision on my own. And so I wouldn't even fully think about it. I would, I'd say no, and then I would be easily convinced of another way then maybe you get to the dinner, or you get to the party, or you get to the whatever it is. And I mean, I would know the second I left my house, like, oh, dang it, God, I just don't want to do this. This is like, I should have just stuck with what I said and said no once I talked myself into it, or once somebody else talked me into it. And then you end up getting, again, the bitterness, the resentment coming up, where then you're like bitter that you're at the party. You end up not enjoying it, or you become bitter at the other person that convinced you to be there. And I think it's hard, because if somebody, I'm not saying like you just, I don't know. There are situations where you need to go to something, like say it's your great uncle so-and-so's birthday party, and you just like, you really need to be there because of whatever respectful family needs. I mean, it's still okay to say no, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying that you should just not care about other people's feelings. And it would mean a lot to your great Uncle Joe if you came to his party, and that would be really special to him because you're important to him, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that you shouldn't respect other people's feelings, but I'm saying that you can kind of create boundaries even in that situation. If it's that, for your like mental sanity, you just really cannot do it and can't be there, then you can come stop by for a little bit at the party and say hello, and then stay within your boundaries of, I'm going to stay for 30 minutes, or I'm going to, come and drop off my gift, or I'm going to, you know what, Uncle Joe, I would love to, but I really can't. I really just can't with Aunt Sally. She's always like criticizing me and putting me down, and I just can't be around her. You may not have to tell Uncle Joe this, but Uncle Joe, I'd really love to come to your party. But maybe instead of going to your party, I would love to take you to dinner next week, or, something. It's not that you just totally have to be disrespectful of other people, but there are certainly times when you need to do things to stand up for yourself, to be able to like maintain your sanity, your life, or just that it's something else that you need to do. Maybe you have promised your kids. There was actually a girls' night thing for our Sunday school class that I really did want to go to recently. I really wanted to go to it. But it was on a Friday night. It was the first week of school, and Gaines, we do like family Mexican night. And Gaines had already been talking about how she was so excited to like start back up family Mexican night since summer was over, and it was her first week of school and all this stuff. And like, I felt like that wasn't a good enough excuse, and nobody judged me for it as far as I know. If they did, it's none of my business, whatever, they can. But I don't think they did. But I personally, to myself, even questioned myself. I was like, well, I mean, I should probably go. Like, it's just Mexican. We could go the next night. But it was really important to me because it was important to Gaines, and it was something we'd had planned. So that's just kind of a little example. There's something even recently, like I'm telling you, I'm still working on overcoming a lot of this stuff, as much as I feel like I like know what I'm supposed to do. The kids always want to watch DVDs in the car. And that's something that started like a long time ago. And it's just like the TVs automatically come on, but then their headphones don't work. And then they're like arguing about the movie. And they don't need to be watching a movie in the car when we're driving like 10 minutes down the road. But they would ask, and then I would feel guilty that like, well, the TV's already on and they saw it, and like, oh man. And so it's taken a really long time for me to just finally say like, okay, we're going to make a new rule. We're just not going to watch TV in the car, because it's like hard for me. I feel too guilty, and it's confusing for them when it's like, well, one day when like everybody's in a good mood, then we can watch it. But then on the bad days when everybody's in a bad mood and everybody's fighting, then we can't. So like, who knows if we're going to get to watch TV today. And so that just creates like instability for them, and like mental, wishy-washy angst for them of like, well, but you said I could yesterday, and like now blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things with kids that I feel like that really like gets to me. I don't want them to feel like they don't know one way or the other. So it's not that I'm being mean. It's just that I'm saying like, just so we don't even have to worry about it, we're not going to watch movies unless we're going on a longer car trip, or, we're going somewhere that's further. Like there's places we have to go regularly that are, 30, 40 minutes away. Maybe they're tired and they've had, a long day at school or whatever, and they just kind of want to chill out. And I totally understand that. But we just made a rule. So it's not a fight every morning now. It's not like we get in the car to go to school, which is not that far away, and they start complaining that it was to the point of like, I would open the door to get in the car. My TV's not on. Can you turn my TV on? And I was like, oh my Lord Jesus, would y'all please just wait a minute? Like, give me a minute to get in the car. And then they start crying, it's not on yet. So yeah, we just totally took that out. And now like it's not like they get in the car and they're like, dang it, I want to watch TV. They just know that that's how it is. And so it's not an argument. So that's kind of how it translates over into so many different areas of life, all the stuff that I've been learning. And it's just really amazing to me to see how I didn't realize that this was not only okay, but it was important. So I guess like I was saying, if you find yourself saying, why do you keep doing this to me? Somebody's not doing something to you. Like, why do y'all keep doing this? Why do you keep fighting when you get in the car? I get in the car, hang on, I can't even buckle my seatbelt because I've got to turn on the TV for y'all. No, they're not doing that to me. I'm allowing that to happen. I'm allowing myself to feel bad about it. I'm allowing all these things to happen. Let's see. Okay. So I guess the only other thing that I was really kind of just thinking about is this is all easier said than done, mostly. And it's taken me a really long time to get to the point of being able to like feel confident in myself to say no, or to be confident in myself to set some boundaries. And I feel like the way that I've been able to be the most confident, to feel the least guilt, and to just be able to like enjoy my decision is to be super confident in my why. Again, that comes back to trusting yourself. When you feel like somebody else is always going to convince you of something anyway, you're probably not, or I guess for me, I wouldn't think as much about why I didn't want to go, or why it wasn't okay, or whatever the boundary was. And so I wouldn't think as much about it. And then I wouldn't trust myself. If you don't trust yourself, you're not going to spend too much time thinking about things. But when you do, when you think about things, when you have like thought about the options, explored all the possibilities, and you're like, nope, this is how it is. It's okay to say, if somebody asks you to do something or whatever, most of the time you should be able to say, that sounds really fun. Let me think about that and I'll get back to you. It's okay to do that, because sometimes you not just need to necessarily check your calendar, but like, let me just check and make sure. There may not be anything on my calendar, but that might be a good thing, because it may be the end of a long week. We have recently realized that Friday night Mexican night may not even be the best idea for our kids, because the past couple of weeks, now that school started back, and it's really like, they're really getting to where they got lots of activities and all this stuff. By Friday nights, they are like beat, and it's not even fun for them because they're so exhausted. So that's something that we've enjoyed doing too. But to be able to say, like, for them, even though they think they want to go, they get there and they're miserable because they're so tired. So, really kind of thinking about everything, taking your time, and trusting that your gut feeling is most likely going to be correct the majority of the time. That's something that I've truly learned, and that there are a lot of people in life that are going to try to convince you otherwise. This is true, not just in the like saying no and somebody tries to give you reasons why you should do something. But also I've learned this kind of like in the addiction space, and something that I learned in a lot of the groups and like online little forums and stuff that I was on about, if you start questioning yourself, usually if you have a feeling about something and it's gotten to the point where you like really are like, okay, something is really not right, something's going on. Most of the time there's, something that needs to be discussed. If you're in a relationship with somebody who's like on the regular trying to hide things from you or been hiding things from you, they're going to be pretty good at convincing you that something isn't wrong and that you're crazy. So just have to believe yourself, trust yourself, and, be able to stand up for yourself when you need to. So that is mainly what I had to talk about. Now that I am finished with that portion, so that I don't get totally off track, let me see if there are any questions. If y'all have questions for me, I'll take a few minutes here at the end and answer for for you guys. I know it takes a second for the comments to come in, but I did want to say, well, any of you guys, if y'all have comments, questions, if y'all have questions for me to answer, I'll let those come in. But thank you all so much for your support on supporting and listening to the new podcast. I am so excited about it. And it is only available right now on Anchor. If you don't have the Anchor app, it's super easy to use. I think it is. It was easy for me once I got it figured out. You can download it and you can listen there, and this audio will go up there hopefully today. So, but thank y'all. Seriously, y'all are like the best, and seeing you guys listening to things, favoriting the podcast, all of that, even before it's out on all the other platforms, like after the fact, I'm like, dang it, I shouldn't have even like put it out there because I feel bad that y'all can't listen to it on the platform that you prefer, but hopefully it will be approved for those soon. It takes a minute for like things for it to all get approved on different platforms. So wait on that, and hopefully it will be soon. Let's see. Do you still get up before the kids in the morning? If so, how much earlier? Yes, I am still getting up. If y'all have been following my channel for a while, last year with all the changes in my life, I started getting up at 5 a.m. Over the summer, we were a little bit more relaxed on everything, and so I was getting up a little bit later. But the mornings that I would sleep in until the kids woke up, after doing that for a few days, I would get stressed out. Right now I'm doing 5:30. Some days 5 o'clock, but mostly 5:30 because I like to walk outside, like for exercise, and it's not daylight until, it's not really daylight until 6, but by the time I get up and get my shoes on and all that. So anyways, that's what I'm doing for now. I want to get back to 5 because that was giving me even just a little bit more time. So I might get back to that. Mexican takeout on Friday. That's a genius idea. I don't have to cook. We can make it fun. Yes, Spotify. Oh, I did say it was available on Anchor only. Sorry. Yeah, the podcast is available on Spotify also. So you can listen to it on Spotify as well. And like I said, there is on Anchor. I don't know if this is on other platforms. I assume it's just on Anchor, I guess. I have no idea. I've never done this before. But there is a button that says support this podcast. So if you guys just feel the need in your heart to support us in some way. I know a lot of times we have people asking about that, or, wanting to do super chats or buy a shirt or whatever. That is another way that you can do that as well. So feel free to check that out. What's the one thing you'd go back and tell your newly married self? That's a good question. I probably need some time to think about that one for real. I don't know, man. One thing that there's a lot. Dang, there's a lot. I don't even know. I really feel like I would want myself to like watch these videos so I would understand all the stuff that I know now about, being able to trust myself and kind of stand up for myself, and that I can make my own decisions and be my own person, which is not Cullen's fault that I am that way. It's totally just everything in life that plays together. So that's a good question. I'll think harder about that and give you a better answer one day. What time is it right now? It's 1:30 in the afternoon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe you got to watch it on your lunch break. If not, maybe you're watching the replay. Thank you for watching the replay and sitting through all the administrative stuff at the end. I really appreciate it. Like I've said before, y'all are seriously like the absolute most wonderful, amazing, supportive folks, and it means so much to me. So thank you guys so much for this. Hopefully I'll have some other content on the podcast coming up soon, other than just these live streams, like the audio from the live streams. So stay tuned for that as well. If there are specific things, questions y'all have, or topics that you want me to address, you can leave them in the comments of this video after the video goes live, because I won't be able to see all the other chat comments like after everything is over. But once the replay goes live, you can leave comments in the comment section below. And maybe I'll be able to address some of those on the podcast as well. You can also send me a voice message on Anchor too. If you have a question, you can submit your voice message and I can like play it and answer your question. So there's lots of cool options. I'm really excited about this and the future of what I'm going to be able to do, being able to share this with you guys. Like I've said, if I can help one person, then it's worth it. I don't want anybody to be stuck where I was, stuck in this like negative mindset and belief pattern and all of that. I want to help you guys as much as I can by sharing what I've learned. So thank you guys so much. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day. It's almost Friday. You are almost to the end of Thursday. And then it will be Friday in the weekend. So I hope y'all have a great weekend. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye. If it will end.